Hey, what's going on, guys? Reaper here with Reaper's Pop-A-San Supply. So tonight I decided I would do kind of a quick live stream. It may go on for about an hour or so. But I decided what I was going to do, since I'm dead busy just making constant stock for the upcoming event in Louisiana at the end of this month, or this coming month, I should say. I have tons and tons of patches, uniform products, and stuff to make for the event. It's going to be kind of a big Vietnam event going on in Fort Polk, Louisiana area on the old Tigerland training grounds. That well, if you guys have ever seen the movie Tigerland, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But since there's going to be a big variety of different people at the event, I'm having to go through making several different patches, and I'll kind of give you guys a rough idea of what I have been doing here over the past week. So here is a sheet of material that I use that's all hand embroidered patches. So I'll explain to you guys here real quick what I'm doing. I'm making the first air cab patches, which is this right here. Now I'm making 3-piece. Now what that basically means is, here, this is an original, and it's 1 piece. And what makes it 1 piece is it's all embroidered on 1 piece of fabric. So basically, when I make a 3-piece or a 1-piece, let's see here, which one of these would be a 1-piece? This one here is a 1-piece. It's done on OG Green 107 fabric, and this one here is all machine embroidered. So every bit of this is all on 1 piece of fabric. Now going into the 3-piece, like this one for example, which is machine, has 3 separate pieces. You have the OD green background fabric, and then the stripe, and then the horse's head, which makes it a 3-piece. So what I'll be doing is I'm making this specific version tonight, which again, 3-piece. So the outer edge of it is machine embroidered, and then the stripe itself is a separate piece made out of black velvet, and so is the horse's head, and then that's machine embroidered onto the fabric. Now this was something that was done quite frequently. There were several different versions of in-country made patches that the Vietnamese did for units and troops in Vietnam. And one of them, which you guys know, was all hand embroidered onto fabric. So, which is a lot of what I do. You guys have seen a lot of those patches so far on some of the other live streams I've done here, or even on some of my products. So then the other versions were machine embroidered onto fabric. Now, some of them were machine embroidered into original leftover material from uniforms. Some of them were embroidered into Vietnamese made cotton fabric, both hand and machine embroidered. And then you also had the ones that were done on specifically velvet material. They used the velvet material because it's easy to cut out and it doesn't fray or stretch or anything else like that. So you can cut out the pattern you need and then sew directly onto the fabric and make your pattern and shape that you need to make. So tonight, like I said, I'll be doing the first air cab patches in 3-piece with the black velvet. So these go pretty quickly for the most part. I'll be doing these on a little bit thicker material than I normally would. So I'm kind of using a little bit of a canvas here, partly because I have a lot of leftover canvas and, well, a lot of patches to make. The other part of it is that using the OG 107 material, it's a lot of people refer to it as kind of a cheesecloth, and the reason for that is it frays pretty easily. So when you're doing it with hand embroidery, it actually makes it a lot easier to put your pattern into it because it's thinner material in a way, and it allows for that needle and that thread to bond and tighten in closely. Now when you do it with a machine, it tends to want to stretch the fabric out too much or kind of tear it up, which is not a good thing when you're trying to make a piece. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here, guys. And anybody that's in the chat, if you got questions or anything like that, or want a little history lesson, which you're probably going to get from me regardless. I know so much about this stuff, and it's something I've been into for years. So I'll do my best to keep up with the chat as best as possible and answer any of your guys' questions along the way. So with these, I tend to start with the stripe, and then I'll do the border, and then I'll go into adding the horse's head. So it allows me the opportunity to see exactly where I need to put the stitch. So when I do this, guys, I tend to try and stay to the outer edge of the black velvet. That way it bonds it to the actual material. It doesn't allow the lip to raise up too much. Let's see here. So there, you guys can see is the stripe on it. So then I'll do the border. But since I've got several of these here, I'll do all the stripes on them first, then I'll go back and do the border. I've already pre-cut the horse's heads here. You guys can see these little fellas. Just a tiny little thing. But, this is, like I said, another way that the Vietnamese made a lot of their patches. So you'll find that there's a variety of different styles of patches. Some of them, they didn't use black velvet. They used actual black cotton fabric that they had and added these on here. A lot of what they weren't really wasteful people, so they used whatever they had a lot of times. Yeah, I set up a different lamp because a lot of times in this room with the dark red walls, it tends to be a little too dark and people can't see me or what's going on. But unfortunately, it also creates a backglow. So I'll have to probably rig one up on the ceiling here sometime soon to kind of get rid of the God effect here. Well, maybe you could get her to help make me a bunch of patches because we know that people are good at that. Yes, I said that. So I've probably got 5 or 6 of these things to make, maybe 7, I believe, is what I've got material for tonight. Now for the event, I'm trying to make a variety of as many patches as possible in different styles. So there's going to be a lot of hand embroidered, there's going to be a lot of straight machine embroidered, and there's going to be a lot of a mixture between 50-50, which is 50% machine and 50% hand. The reason I'm having to do that is to give people the option to choose what style of patch they like or what they feel is best looked on their uniform. The other reason is doing straight hand embroidered patches, which is something I'm obviously very well known for at this point and seems to be my most popular selling items. Unfortunately, they take god awful amounts of time. This piece I just showed you guys a minute ago of this was roughly 2 days of work, and that was 12 hours nonstop just about each time. So that's how long it's taken me just to do those hand embroidered patches. Of course, I'm the type of person that when I do something like that, I look at it, yeah, there's several patches there, but I feel like I haven't quite done enough. And I get a lot of that when I do this type of work. Because it takes so long, I feel like I'm wasting time and not actually getting anything done. Good thing about machine embroidered patches is they go a lot quicker usually if they're like this. If there's a lot of intricate detail like lettering or certain shapes, it takes a lot more time. It takes about as much time as it would to do hand embroidered patches because you have to keep your eye on it. If you make even one little mistake, unfortunately, it's not like hand embroidery where you can kind of correct that issue. Once you put it down with the machine, it's kind of there. So it usually goes in a bin where you kind of got to throw it in like a not so great bin. In which case I do a little option where I'll take a variety of patches that were made that didn't quite meet my cut, my requirements to sell it to a customer or just to sell it as a piece by itself. And I'll offer like a grab bag for $5-10 of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 patches that aren't 100% perfect and aren't quite up to par for what I would want them to be, and that gives somebody an option of having one that isn't perfect for a cheaper price, but at the same time they get that even deeper in country quality to it. So it's one of those things, it's a toss-up. It depends on what the person wants or what their tolerance for a certain item is too. Yeah, Thorn, a lot of people didn't know it. And like I've said before, Dark and Cab 7 have joked repeatedly on different live streams that I sew and stitch. A lot of people thought it was an actual joke, but no, it's actually part of my business. It's what I do on a daily basis, to be honest with you. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. When it comes to iron-on patches, to be perfectly honest with you, personally, I don't do them, obviously. Everything I do is sew-on. But out of personal experience of using sew-on or iron-on patches, They have a tendency over time, especially if you wash them and throw them in a dryer and all that, or if you're wearing something pretty heavily, they tend to peel off and start to come off. And when they do that, they also leave kind of nasty glue residue behind on that item. Now, doing it on something leather, you can kind of get away with it, but in my experience of wearing leather vests and different things like that, I always sew my patches on. I prefer to take the extra time to sew them on. They'll hold a lot better. And if you decide to remove them and put them on something else, well, then you don't have that sticky residue. They just really don't tend to bond to fabric for a very long period of time, and they don't stay very well, I guess. Yeah, thanks, Thorn, man. I appreciate that comment, buddy. I originally started doing this stuff for my own personal needs. A lot of it was that, well, there was patches I couldn't find that anybody made, and to have custom patches back then made from a website or somebody else was kind of pricey. And there were just certain things I wanted and certain looks I wanted. One of them was for my personal memorial jacket for Vietnam veterans. That I wanted certain things in certain locations and certain sizes, and they just weren't available. So I started doing that. And then also back then I was pretty pretty active and reenacting. So my own personal uniforms, I wanted a very specific look and more of an old school patch look than the new ones that come out that look just too new, and they're all embroidered. Didn't quite look right for the Vietnam era, so I started making my own and using them. Several years down the road, I remember seeing somebody ask the question on the Vietnam Reenactors page on Facebook, which I own. It's the biggest Vietnam Reenactors page group page that's on Facebook, and I think it was the first one, I believe. But anyway, the individual asked the question about embroidered patches and if there was anybody that made them or anything in country like. And I jumped up and said, yeah, man, I can make you some. Now, originally, I was just doing it to make a little extra money at the time and just kind of help somebody out. And then it turned into he was recommending me to a lot of his friends and reenacting buddies. And all of a sudden, I started getting a bunch of people, and then more references and more references and more references. And then somebody just kind of said, man, do you do this as a business, or is this just something you do on the side? Of course, at the time, I said, yeah, it's just something to do on the side. And then people kind of started hinting at the fact that, well, maybe you should do this as, an actual business. And it's kind of how that started. So I started making a bunch of product and got kind of known for it. And then I made a business page. And I started making a lot of different things, a lot of custom, a lot of one-off, a lot of items that people couldn't find or didn't know how to make. So they'd send me photos or ideas and say, hey, can you make this? Can you do that? So on and so forth. And that's kind of how that started. And it turned into my now everyday business. I get to work from home, and that's great. Well, the thing about iron-on patches is if you really wanted to, if you want to take some of the stiffness out of them, for example, you can peel that iron-on stuff off the back if you really wanted to go that route. I've done that personally. It takes a while, and it's kind of a pain. But you can still sew them. Machine sewing iron-on patches is a 50-50 thing. If you do it with a machine, a lot of times the needle wants to stick in the fabric, that glue stuff on the back of it, which is kind of hard on your sewing machine. But at the same time, you can hand sew it just as easily. It just takes a little more time and a little more patience to get it on there. Black, if you really wanted one, you can get up with me and tell me the size and coloring and all that stuff. I could probably make one. Yeah, just let me know if you really want to set up a MAID. Like I said, kind of give me a rough idea, size, coloring, the type of letter style, or background, or whatever, and we can discuss it. And I can work you up a quote and let you kind of know what I can do with it. I mean, something like that shouldn't be too hard to do, and it'd be interesting. It'd be something new as well. You know, the interesting thing is that you're a Star Wars fan, so I'm going to go into something that's kind of Star Wars related for you. It's also very much Vietnam related. In the old Star Wars movies, you know, from the 70s and 80s, the first ones that came out, a lot of the rebel troops in those movies were using original Vietnam era gear. They were using the ARVN rucksacks. They were using some of the ammo pouches and fuel and equipment stuff, some of the helmets and whatnot. They kind of they repurposed them for the film back then, and I always thought that was something that was kind of neat and kind of original to reuse that stuff back then like that. Of course, now a lot of guys like to see that in films, especially if they're Vietnam reenactors, but at the same time, they kind of hate to see certain fuel gear and stuff used because it gets destroyed usually in a movie. But at the same time, I would prefer to see them use original stuff in films, especially if it's based on a certain era or situation like that, than to use modern day stuff and ruin the history of it. Like the movie King Kong, for example. I watched that a while back, and although they got quite a few things correct, they also messed up a lot of the fuel gear and equipment, and that was kind of upsetting because it was based in, well, the end of the Vietnam War there, that they had all the wrong fuel gear, and it kind of was an annoying thing for me to watch. Thanks, Thorne. I appreciate you stopping in, buddy. Yeah, there's a lot of different things about history people didn't know, and some of the weapons that they created for Star Wars as well were made from original military weapons parts that they kind of made it into it and made it well, a completely new and original item. So I always thought that was something that was very neat. So I've got 1 and 2. That's the width. So let's see here. Okay. Now we'll get all the stripes sewn on. Now it's just a matter of going around and making the border. Oh, that'd be neat. Welcome back. Had to re-spool my bobbin here. Ran out of some fabric. Thread on the bobbin, I mean. All right. Now for the next live stream, I'll probably wind up doing some more boonie hats. I've got, let's see here, 3 boonie hats to complete. One of them is that tiger stripe one I tried to stream working on the other day, and unfortunately my internet wasn't having any of that. Then I have a Special Forces style Matt VSOG light boonie hat to make for an individual, along with a Special Forces style CISO NBA style boonie hat. So those are 3 things that need to get done pretty quick. And there's another thing that I haven't really touched base on the channel yet, but I will have a very interesting commercial type thing for it coming out, and that is Mac VSOG style footprint boots. I actually have an individual that has sent me a pair of boots to make these out of. Unfortunately, I had things happen and come up after I got them, and I haven't been able to work on them or finish them the way I should have, or as quick as I should have. So that's something I'm also in the middle of finishing up, and there will be a little preview for those as well. So that's another thing I got to work on for a customer here soon, in the next day or 2. Hey, Captain Jerk. Nice to see you, buddy. It's not nice to hear that you're sick, but it's nice to see you. So probably what I'll do here real quick is switch these settings back over and the horse's head on this patch to kind of show you what these look like finished up and roughly how long it takes to make one. But after that, I believe I will go ahead and end this specific live stream. Just because I don't want it to be too drawn out and too long, and I think we've already been running probably close to an hour, I would say. Yeah, maybe not quite an hour, about 30, 45 minutes. But I want to try and keep some of these live streams as short as possible. That way, people don't have to watch 2-3 hours of the business page trying to get to the area that they're looking for. Let's see here. What's going on? Reason. All right, guys, so I'll cut this out real quick and show you the finished patch. All right, guys. So there you have it. That is a finished 3-piece First Air Cavalry patch. Now, this is the shoulder sleeve insignia, the SSI, so it would go, up here. Yeah, that's the 3-piece. So I've got, let's see here, probably 5 more of these to make. 2, 3, 4, yeah, 4, 5. Yeah, looks like I got 5 more of these to make. So I'll tell you what, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this specific live stream for now. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a rough idea of what I have to go through to make the 3-piece machine embroidered air cav patches. Like I said, I will have a regular live stream going on from time to time on some of the products I make, especially if it's an individual customer's product, because I know a lot of these guys really like to see their stuff made. So here in the next day or two, I'll probably have another live stream, and that will be me working on another Boonie hat, or maybe even a couple different ones. And I'll do it a little earlier in the day. That way some of the guys that have to work and whatnot can get home and they can kind of see some of their product being made. But anyway, guys, I really appreciate you coming in, and all my customers, you know damn well I appreciate every single one of you guys. But anyway, guys, we'll catch you later. This has been Reaper's Papasan Supply Live with 3-piece First Air patches. So we'll catch you on the next live stream, or we'll see you on my business page. Reaper out.